All right. So Chantry Abbott here at Guild Mortgage. I am sitting here with a super successful top producing real estate agent in Texas. So what part of Texas are you in, Cory?
So I'm in North Texas. I live in Sherman, Texas, about an hour north of Dallas. We cover Grayson County, Cook County, Fannin County, Collin County, and it's a wide area that we cover. I'm also a licensed broker up in Oklahoma as well. So North
Killer.
Texas, Southern Oklahoma.
So I'm super fired up to interview Cory. We have a mutual friend that's a loan officer at Guild in Texas. She's only said really good things. I thought it'd be fun to interview Cory because he can give us what he's doing, perspective outside of the market, and we can take it to our local market because most are all the same. So how long you been in the business, Cory?
So I have been in about 9.5 years.
Okay.
Got licensed. I think my license went active January of 2014, somewhere in there.
Cool, dude. Awesome. What's your team look like? Are you a one-man band? Do you have a team? Do you have transaction coordinators?
So I have a team with 6 agents. I have an manager who is an office manager. She's kind of an operations manager, and she really runs, the day-to-day stuff, transaction management. She kind of keeps us all in line, and she's phenomenal at what she does. We're really lucky to have her.
Awesome. How long has she been on your team?
I want to say 2.5, 3 years, somewhere in there.
Before that, was it you doing that role?
We had virtual assistants who were doing all that stuff, and
Nice.
it had gotten to the point where I was paying. So it was like a per transaction is how I would pay them. And it got to the point where we were doing so many transactions. I was like, I can pay somebody a salary and have them in the office, doing other stuff,
Yeah.
and for each file. And so we just kind of, we scaled it up to where it just made sense to have somebody full time.
So somebody that doesn't have the capacity to go hire somebody yet to help with transaction management, you had a lot of success with the VA route.
Yes, absolutely. So that actually, I want to say my 4th or 5th year in real estate is where I got to a point where I was doing so many transactions, and I didn't realize that there were these things called virtual assistants that would take care of all the not so fun part of being a realtor, the paperwork. And so I almost doubled my production in 1 year simply by hiring a virtual assistant
Wow.
who would do the paperwork, the transaction management, the listing management, all that stuff. And I didn't really, I mean, I was at the time I was single, and my wife, my girlfriend, she lived long distance, so I had nothing to do but work, but it was really starting to wear on me. So like
Sure.
when I woke up
Doing
to
everything.
go to bed, it was like listing agreements, buyer rep agreements, CMAs, like launching listings, putting them on social media, all this stuff.
Yep.
It was really starting to wear on me. I was doing about 27 transactions that year, and maybe it was my 3rd year in real estate. I was doing about 27 transactions, hired a virtual assistant, and was in like I think 54 to 55 transaction range.
Wow.
After it. Leveraging that was a huge catapult in my business.
If somebody was looking to maybe do that and scale their business, where would you point them at? Where would they start? Is there a website, or how did you go about that?
So I actually had an introduction for it was somebody in my brokerage, actually my franchise owner. I was at Remax, and my franchise owner recommended this lady who, I think she's out of Dallas, but she works all over the country. Her name is Tiffany Haynes. I'm going to give her a shout out because while I was with them, they were absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And but Tiffany Haynes with Virtual Business Solutions.
Virtual Business Solutions.
I think it's virtualbusinesssolutions.com, VBS.
Killer.
And so, they were able to set me up with my own virtual assistant. We came up with the checklist of here's how I want my buyer transactions to go. Here's how I want my listing launch. Here's how I want my listing transaction management to go. And they do other stuff. Like if you want to do some a la carte, hey, we'll do a newsletter to your email database. We'll do, some different kind of generic social media posts, whatever you want to do, they can cater to those needs. And so it was it was a very cost-effective way to leverage somebody else doing the stuff that got in the way of me being a productive salesperson.
Sounds like the cool part to it is that most people that are not quite ready to scale, but they're ready to take the next step and not quite, they're ready to scale, they're not quite ready to hire a full-time person, is you go hire a full-time inexperienced person and you're like, I don't know what to tell you to do. And you have to create all the protocols. And then it's like, okay, it's just easier to do it myself. It sounds like these guys kind of had it done for you a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. So like,
that's cool.
And I had made some hires for an in-office person, and it didn't work because, well, number one, I wasn't really ready for that. Mm-hmm. I was always looking at how much I was paying them and the fact that I was having to go back and do their job after they kind of halfway did it.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, and I kind of took a little bit of ownership on that. It wasn't all them. Sure. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. I didn't know how to train them. I didn't know what systems they needed to be implementing. And so really going that route with Tiffany and VBS was, they said, here's how we do it for other top producers who are kind of like you. You can, we can modify this list. We can add stuff, take away, but they kind of had this, they had a transaction management list that was so extensive that there was a couple things I kept, but the rest of it, I was like, we really don't need to do that. This is what I want done. And it worked out beautifully.
Beautiful stepping stone. How much business does your team do now on it? I mean, give me a rough number. I know we're in kind of a weird market, but what does that look like for you guys? Total volume, buyers, sellers, just so people here can kind of get an understanding of your team size and what your production is.
Yeah. So I've got 6 agents that work under me. My brother has a team. We work together, but we have separate P&Ls because it's tough to work with family. Anyway, so him and his 2 agents, and then me and my 6 agents, we do about 57 million. Nice. I will say most of my agents are anywhere from brand new to 3 or 4 years in the business, kind of right in there. So still fairly new and really learning how to adjust to this market. It seems like the market's different every time you open up MLS.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do, most of them on the team will do buyer transactions. Taylor and Sean, who have been with me the longest, are kind of getting, I'd say, a little bit more balanced with buyer and seller transactions. And then my business is primarily, I'd say about 70% listings. The buyers that I do work, it's typically those, hey, we need you to sell our house and we're going to go buy something else.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where are they getting most of their buyers to work? Are you providing them web leads, or what does that look like?
So it's a pretty healthy mix of several different lead pillars. Right now I've got the team working, I invest in Zillow leads and they get those direct calls, direct connections from Zillow, signed call leads or direct connections that are and those calls are broadcast to the team. So it's essentially everybody gets a ring. Whoever answers the phone first is getting that lead. And we do that with our sign calls and our Zillow calls, just because those are the most expensive ones. And if we don't answer, those leads are calling somebody else that's not on the team. So then we do Facebook leads and Google pay-per-click leads, which are on a round robin system that the agents work. And a lot of my business, whether I keep it as a listing or refer it to agents on the team, if it's a buyer, is agent referrals. And that's just something from, being active on mastermind groups on Facebook to just, networking with different coaching organizations that I've been in the past, getting to meet a lot of great agents there all over the country. So I get a lot of referrals for stuff like that. And awesome. I'm starting to get a lot of agent-to-agent referrals for Oklahoma. There's a ton of people that I know down in Dallas, and their coverage stops at the border, and they don't want to go into Oklahoma. They don't know anybody in Oklahoma. So they're like, hey, I know Cory. He's in North Texas. Mm-hmm. Probably take care of my people in Oklahoma. So we're getting a lot of that too. But those are the main sources of business that I have. And then just
killer.
Video marketing is video and social marketing is huge for us.
Is video like you out there providing valuable content, or what does video look like to you guys?
So it's a lot of, I would say it's kind of a mix between listing tours and market updates and, you know, just informational, you know, here's how the buying process goes. Here's how the selling process goes. That's really, whenever I first got into real estate, I put a heavy emphasis on doing video because it was, you know, back then, it's like if you put a video out, people thought you were, you know, a Hollywood producer.
Yeah.
You know, it got everybody's attention. So I learned how to shoot and edit video, and I would just put out anytime a buyer or seller would ask me a question, I would make a video about it and put it on YouTube. And it was pretty incredible how many times I'd get those same questions. I could say, you know what, I'm going to talk to you over the phone about this, but here's a video that goes much more in depth. And, you know, people would tell me, hey, we watched like 3 or 4 of your videos. And that's, you know, we decided to go with you because you seem like you know what you're talking about.
Dude, there's a lot of value in what you just said there. Not only are you leveraging your time, but what's happening is they're running into all your other videos and you've built tons of credibility. If somebody went and watched 3 or 4 of your videos, odds are you don't have to sell yourself anymore because your videos just did it. Yeah, that's killer. That's killer.
We also do, you know, another, I was always like a class clown. So I make a lot of just kind of funny off the wall videos, and sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, but, you know, we'll do retargeting ads, you know, to our database. And I've got a Facebook marketing team that does that. I don't really understand how all that works. I mean, I get the gist of it, but I couldn't go build a Facebook ad. But, you know, we want to get some content out there that says, hey, we're human, we're relatable. You can talk to me. Like, I'm the kind of guy that you want to hang out with after work, grab a beer, whatever.
Yep.
You know, it just kind of brings the human factor into the relationship. And like you said, before they call you, they've seen so many of your posts, your videos. They know that you know what you're talking about with the market updates. They want to work with you before they can pick up the phone.
They almost feel like a warm referral.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them. That's awesome. What's the most important content that, like, let's say you've got a real estate agent in this market that it's tough right now. Okay. But what's the most important thing you're doing as far as consuming content? Are you reading books? If so, what's the most valuable book you'd recommend? Is there a podcast you're listening to? Somebody's looking to fill their mind with knowledge and motivation and keep themselves going in this market. Is there one thing that you're doing right now?
I think there's one podcast that I really like. It's and I've been with Tom Ferry coaching for a really long time. Okay. I love the podcast. And I love the interviews that he does. I forget like the subtitle of the interview that he does with Steve Harney from Keeping Current Matters.
Oh yeah. I know who Steve is. Yep. So that's good stuff.
So they're basically, you know, Tom's bringing like the rationale behind it. Steve's bringing the numbers and the data, and they're breaking it down, talking about, you know, here's what we're seeing on a national level. Here's what some smaller markets are seeing, and kind of giving you some insight on how to go back to your MLS system, find that data, interpret it. And then the thing that Tom does is he'll give you kind of hey, here's the message that you need to be sharing based on the thing. And so I think that's the most important thing, is just knowing how to interpret different data points and being able to competently share that with buyers and sellers in your marketplace.
Yeah. So, beautiful. Awesome. Tom Ferry podcast, and especially Steve Harney, anybody that hasn't heard of Keeping Current Matters, that's killer stuff too, just to have. And I think I get a bunch of their emails almost daily. I'm not a subscriber because it's kind of geared towards you guys, but the stuff that's in there is great. So
and then there's a great book that I would recommend to anybody. You know, I used to be at Keller Williams. Before I was there, I read The One Thing by Gary Keller. And it's one of the, you know, in the real estate space, you get so many like shiny object syndrome. It's like, here's the best CRM. No, now go use this one. Here's a new video editing tool. There's all these things that can distract you. Or maybe things outside of the industry that are like, here's a side hustle you should do. But The One Thing really reeled my focus in and taught me that you need to be consistently good at this one thing, whatever it is. And for me, it's lead generation, lead follow-up. If I'm consistently good with that, then the rest of my business will fall into place. It'll work itself out. If I'm, you know, thinking that I want to try a different style of Facebook marketing or different, pay-per-click lead or whatever, and I'm just kind of constantly bouncing around before I give anything time to really run through its paces, I'm wasting my time, my money, and all that stuff. So The One Thing is a great book, and I love it.
And the truth is, lead gen and lead follow-up aren't very fun, and they're not very sexy. It's a lot funner to go try to figure out that new Facebook ad or shoot that clever video or do whatever the next cool thing is.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like, the lead gen and lead follow-up, I'm guessing that's mostly just being on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so our team uses Follow Up Boss.
Yep.
And everybody is, our standard operating procedure is you use your Follow Up Boss number. You're making calls out of Follow Up Boss, texts, emails, all that good stuff. And, we treat it like a true work number. And so we can track, and there is a very strong correlation between the agents who are making the most calls, sending the most text messages, and setting the most appointments and their production. It's a numbers game. And that's what I think a lot of real estate agents, if they would just keep in mind that our job is to, talk on the phone, text, set appointments, go on appointments, write contracts, and go to closings. Like, that's what we do. Anything else outside, that's not our job. And that's where you leverage a virtual assistant or, our manager, Robbie, who takes care of everything for us. So
killer. Do you have a metric for like the guys on your team that are in Follow Up Boss working full time? How many calls and things like that they're trying to make on a daily or weekly basis?
So it's different for each agent based on what their goal is. So we'll, at the beginning of the year and each quarter, we'll sit down and say, okay, here's what your business plan was at the beginning of the year. And based on the number of transactions they want to hit, we use the Tom Ferry, I think it's called like the 1-day planner, where it says, if you want to do X number of transactions, you need to have X number of conversations, which leads to X number of appointments. And you kind of build on there. I think it says, 40 conversations will lead to one transaction or something like that.
Awesome.
So going over those numbers with each agent and breaking it down there.
Somebody could probably go find the 1-day planner if they Googled it, right?
And I can't remember if that's what it's called, but you can.
It's the Tom Ferry one.
Yeah, he's got like an annual business plan, and then he's got just like a 1-day business plan that
Killer.
It's really just one piece of paper. And if you fill that out and stick to it, you'll hit your numbers.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the number? You said lead gen and lead follow-up. That kind of leads into my two more questions here. Is the most important thing you do to push your business forward or lead gen? Is that simply being on the phone and having enough contacts so that I can have enough appointments? Is it that simple? Or what's the number one thing that you go, if I consistently do this, my lead gen is happening?
I think it's for me, and what I preach to my agents that work with me is having a dedicated time. And for me, it's first thing in the morning. Like, I want that to be the first thing I focus on, because as your day goes on, it turns into total chaos and things get in the way. If you're planning to do lead generation at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So for me, it's making sure that first thing in the morning, I'm going through my Follow-Up Boss. I'm, there's clearing out my inbox, clearing out any tasks, going through our smart filters, which are our call lists, and just really following up with, whoever's the most active, or whoever's up in the queue on it's their turn to be called or touched. So
what time do you try to carve out for that?
It's usually like 9 to 10.
9 to 10. So even just 1 hour of it, you're making.
That's the crazy thing is if you focus just 1 hour on doing that, it's so powerful. And it just kind of, 1 hour a day of doing strictly nothing but reaching out to people and trying to set appointments has such a huge impact on your business. And when agents say, well, business is slow, or I haven't been able to get appointments or whatever, it usually, or if they haven't had a closing for a few months, it's usually because they took 1 week off and I think my Roomba's fixing to start up. Hang on.
No, you're good.
Let me shut this off. But yeah, it's usually being consistent with that, even if it's just 1 hour a day, if that's all you can do. If you go set one appointment that turns to a listing or a contract, in that 1 hour. If your average sales price is 300,000, you just got a $9,000 commission.
Right.
It can be pretty powerful.
So this flows into, I think, my last question. I think you already answered it. You killed it. Thank you. Is that if you were to give an agent, new or experienced, one piece of advice, how to just keep that ball rolling, especially, that's a challenging market. We can all act like it's not, but it is. It's a little bit harder than we're used to, but there's always a challenge. Okay. But if you could give them one piece of advice, a struggling, or maybe not even a struggling, but they just want to push that ball forward just a little bit, would the one piece of advice go, just make sure you carve out that 1 hour in the morning where you're doing nothing but lead gen? Is that the number one thing you would tell them to do?
I would tell them that. And I would also say, because as you mentioned, it is a tougher market than we've seen. It's a different kind of tough market than we've seen in the past. And right now, I think making sure, we used to look at I had a closing that equals success. And the sales cycle, the time you got a lead to the time you closed, was so short. You kind of measure your success with closed transactions. But right now, you need to look at it a different way. You need to measure the process, measure the contacts, measure the appointment set, and know that you have to consistently put that work in. Even if you're not seeing the quick turn time of, I got a lead, I set an appointment, and maybe instead of 45 days later it's closing, now it's 120 or 180 days later when that's closing. Just know that you've got to measure the process, you've got to measure the contacts, and really track that. And don't get discouraged whenever you followed up with a lead or a contact or referral, whatever. You followed up with them 7, 8, 9 times, and they're still not ready to transact. It just means you need to keep staying in touch with them, because eventually they'll be ready. So that's the big thing, having the right mindset and not getting discouraged, and knowing that it's a longer sales cycle right now. And
trust the process a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's something my coach harps to me about. And I with my team about that.
So dude, that's killer. I really don't want to take too much of your time. I'll let you run unless there's anything else you want to add. You're a freaking superstar. You and your brother's group, you guys are doing 57 million. That's a really great real estate business. I think that you guys have probably top, I don't know what percent, but you're probably top 1% and a leader in your market. And the thing that's cool about it is you didn't really give me anything that we didn't already know is true. Guys, Cory's really successful. He didn't have anything that we thought was new. He puts great content on the internet, and he is consistent about his prospecting. I mean, that's the truth, right?
Absolutely. And that goes back to, don't get distracted with shiny object syndrome. It's real estate is doing the mundane things consistently, and that's what leads to results.
Killer, man. Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I'll let you run. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully I get to meet you in person sometime, but we'll hopefully stay in touch. I'll send you a copy of this, and have a great day, dude.
Yeah. And if any of your agents have any referrals for North Texas, we'd love to help them out.
Yeah, there you go. Or Oklahoma.
Or Southern Oklahoma. Absolutely.
North Texas, Southern Oklahoma. Cory would love to connect with you. I've got your email. Maybe I'll put it when I post this. I'll put your contact info, because it's a small world, man. Everyone knows somebody moving somewhere.
It is. I appreciate it. Thanks, Chantry. Have a great day.
See you, Cory.